All right, so we are now recording, and I've got a presentation to share. Okay, so you remember that when we discussed Samkhya, we talked about the 5 major elemental categories called Panchamahabhut in Sanskrit. So we are going to talk about these and how they relate to the body. So the 5 elements that are present in our bodies are the subtle element of space, also called ether. And then from space you have air, which is the light element, the movable element. Air creates friction and thus fire. Fire is heat and transformative energy, transformative potential. Fire creates moisture and thus water, and water deposits solids. It creates earth. So earth is the most tangible and heavy element. Okay. Oh, this is not really coming out the way that it's supposed to. Sorry, bear with me just a moment here. We had some things that were chopped off there. I'm just going to share that from PowerPoint. Okay. So here we go. So all of these 5 elements, which are components of creation, are also present. What is present in macrocosm is also present in microcosm, and they're manifested in our body. So this is a very important principle, and there are many concepts in Ayurvedic diagnosis and treatment that take this into account, this basic understanding of the 5 elements. These are also elements that give the doshas their specific qualities and weaknesses. And these Panchamahabhutas are also related to another topic which I want to cover briefly today, which are the chakras and the nadis. So let's start with the most subtle, with space. What's the physical manifestation of space in the body? The space in the ears. So you know your ears are made up of very fine components of bones and very fine membranes and nerve cells, hair cells, and so forth. And the really important thing is the space between these components, how they vibrate. Vibration is a function of space. It's a function of movement within space. The nerves, these are also a manifestation of space in the body. The cells, the spaces in the bones, and the space in the colon. What are mental manifestations of space? Lack of clarity, being distracted. You know, we sometimes used to say back in the 60s, someone spaced out, and it's an apt description of when we are in space, we are feeling ungrounded. It's sometimes a very creative state to be in, but it can also be very distracted. Lack of focus, being ungrounded, feeling bloated sometimes. The concept of communication. Communication is related to the element of space. Sharing of joint spaces, connecting with others, and our sense of hearing. These are all manifestations mentally of space. So manifestations of air. It's found physically within the bronchial tree, within the bronchioles and the lungs. It's found in the gas in the colon, in the respiratory gases, in motor response, touch, and sensation. In peristalsis, any bodily movements, including muscle movement, locomotion, heartbeat, circulation, nerve impulse, the expansion and contraction of the lungs. Mental manifestation of air is emotional fear and anxiety, and also creativity, imagination. Fire is, we say, transformative energy or transformative capacity. So physical manifestations of fire in the body are our digestive fire, the digestive enzymes that are produced, beginning from salivation and including the digestive enzymes that are secreted in the stomach and that continue to take effect during the digestive process. Eyesight is also considered a manifestation of fire. Vision, our processing of the things that we see, because we understand that, you know, vision is actually taking place within the brain, and this is similar to the idea that the mind is the center of all of the senses. The digestion of nutrients, our basal metabolic rate, our cellular intelligence, our digestive enzymes, the bile and insulin, our neurotransmitters and neuropeptides. These are all manifestations of fire. The mental manifestations are in vision, in thinking, and thoughts and emotions. Then we move on to water. What are the physical manifestations of water? All of the fluids in the body. Our bodies are made up of so many fluids. In fact, our bodies are understood to be 98% water. Rasa dhatu, blood, all of the mucous membranes, these all contain liquid, lymph, blood, and plasma. Mental manifestations are in relaxation, flow, being able to go with the flow, romance, creativity, relaxation, being laid back, taking it easy. So these are all subtle manifestations or mental manifestations of the water element. Then earth. Earth is physically manifested as all of the structural components of the body. The muscles, the bones, the skin tendons, and mala, the waste products, the hair, nails, bones, and teeth. The earth is the manifestation that gives bulk to stool. If we did not have bulk to our stool, it would completely screw up our whole digestive process. All you have to do is, if you had continuous diarrhea for months on end, you would really waste away. Your digestion cannot happen without the bulk in stool, without the regularity of bowel movements that you get from having the proper bulk in the stool. And this is a manifestation of the earth element. Mentally, what are the manifestations of earth? Feeling grounded, our stability, our resistance to change. If someone has the attitude, it's my way or the highway, that's earth. That's stubbornness. That's, being stubborn like a mountain. Attachment, our attachment to things, our sentimentality, our tendency to hoard, our tendency to food addictions and various types of addictions. And the Annamaya kosha, the level of understanding of consumption. Now, so let's talk about the 5 elements and the 3 doshas. So Pitta is a manifestation of fire and water. So there's this balance where fire can dry water, water can douse fire. So there's a natural balance between fire and water. Kapha combines the stability of earth and the opposing fluidity of water. And Vata combines air and space. So I want to touch very briefly on the 10 opposing qualities. So this is a very extremely important topic. We're really just introducing it here, but I cannot emphasize enough how much you will find these opposing qualities. Everything that we talk about in Ayurveda, we can talk about in terms of these 10 opposing qualities. When we're talking about food, when we're talking about different qualities of our prakriti, we can talk in terms of these 10 opposing qualities. So they're in pairs: heavy and light, cold and hot, sharp and dull, oily and dry, slimy or smooth and rough, dense and liquid, soft and hard, stable and mobile, subtle and gross, clear and cloudy. So let's look at that and try to frame it in a bodily context. So the heavy quality, it gives a strength to bones and it gives bulk to the body. The opposing quality for the guru or heavy is lagu or light. That is necessary for an alert mind. The dull quality or manda, okay, so we're going to try to increase the size of this. Bear with me just a moment. No, that's not working. what I wanted, but I'm not doing this on the computer I usually use. So, so these are the qualities. So these are the qualities that are manifest. These opposing qualities are manifest in the body. So the dull quality is necessary for relaxation and sleep. The tikshna or sharp quality is necessary for digestion. The shita quality or cold is manifest in fear, and the ushna or hot opposing quality in our body temperature. The snigdha or oily quality is necessary for soft skin, and the ruksha or dry quality is manifest when we have constipation. The slakshna, the slimy or smooth quality, is manifest as the synovial fluid in the joints and also in healing of wounds. The kata or rough quality is present in the strength of the tendons, and it's needed for cleaning the gastrointestinal tract. The sandra or thick quality, dense quality, is manifest in the thickness of muscles. The density of muscles is part of what gives them their strength. And the dravya or liquid quality is present in plasma, blood, and secretions. The mridu or soft quality is present in adipose tissue like belly and thighs. And the katina or hard quality is present in teeth, nails, and bones. The sthira or fixed quality is present in evenness of temperament and in sleep. If anyone's tried to sleep on a airplane flight or even a moving train or car, it's very difficult. Sleep does much better, works much better for us when we are in a very even, fixed location. Chala is the nerve impulse. The movable quality is present in nerve impulses. Nerve impulses are all about movement, and also in peristalsis, the movement through the colon. The sukshma or subtle quality is manifest in the semi-permeability of membranes. It's the ability of membranes to be semi-permeable that allows things like the gas transfer that's involved in breathing and getting oxygen into the blood and eliminating carbon dioxide. The stula or the gross quality is manifest in obesity, in giving bulk to the body, and in clotting. If the blood doesn't clot when there's a wound, that is a serious problem. The vishada, the clarity, the clear quality, is present in clarity of perception, and the avila or cloudy quality is manifest in confusion, in cataracts, and in the healing of bone fractures. So there are also, among these qualities, there are some qualities that imbalance the dosha. So for vata, sharp, cold, rough, hard, dry, light, mobile, and clear will tend to imbalance, whereas heavy, oily, smooth, soft, hard, and hot will tend to balance. So this is where we start having the application, and this is, we're giving a very brief overview, but you're going to hear a lot more about this. When we look at things like use of herbs, use of spices, we're looking at their qualities. We're looking at this group of 10 pairs of 20 opposing qualities, and what are the things that will help to balance that particular dosha. So for pitta, pitta will be imbalanced by things that are sharp, hot, oily, clear, subtle, and liquid, and will be balanced by things that are cold, slow, heavy, dry, mobile, and stable. Now, of course, we're rarely dealing with someone who is purely Pitta Prakriti or purely Vata Prakriti. So, we may look at a number of different components that may need to be balanced, but these are the general principles by dosha. So for Kapha dosha, Kapha is imbalanced by things that are heavy, oily, smooth, soft, hard, and cold. So one of the first recommendations that you will hear, that Monica will give for anyone who's Kapha Prakriti is avoid cold liquids. If you're going to drink something, have hot liquids, or at least warm or room temperature. And will be balanced by things that are sharp, hot, rough, hard, heavy, light, dry, mobile, and clear. So that's it for this presentation. We are running a little short on time, and I'm going to hold off on
for myself, like some of those mental attributes, I can see like a tendency towards all of the above kind of thing.
Well, as far as the mental attributes go, when you go towards block 2, then we do the mental attributes like this. Let me just write this down. Can everybody see this? Can everyone see this? Yeah. So I've written VPK, Sattva, Tamas, Rajas. Really, to find out the mental attributes, we have a separate form. It's really long, and these are very general mental attributes. So in your Prakriti, we are mostly concerned with your physical Prakriti in the block 1. In block 2, we are more concerned with your Manasik Kaya or Manasik Prakriti. I've got students waiting in my office. Okay, so Sattva, Tamas, and Rajas. So you have Vata in Sattva, Vata in Tamas, Vata in Rajas. Pitta in Sattva, Pitta in Tamas, Pitta in Rajas. All of these are actually will correctly, once you do that kind of mental questionnaire, you will be able to pinpoint exactly where you're at. So the mental questions that we asked in this form are extremely generic. So it is possible you might say yes to all of them.
Okay.
So, anyone else has any more questions? I'm here just for another 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Okay. So also I just wanted to point out, Juliana had posted a question about the numbers, about the VPK. So we had gone ahead and answered it. So if you look at your Prakriti numbers, VPK. So for example, the total number of questions were 20 or 30 or 40. So out of the 40, you had maximum points for Pitta and least points for Kapha and medium points for Vata. Because you had maximum points for Vata on a scale of 1 to 3, it's 3. So V2, P3, K1. Because you had maximum points for Pitta. If you have maximum points for Pitta, it's P3. If you have least, that means you have no Kapha at all, even not even 1. But you still will write 1 because it's not possible to not have no Kapha. Because I remember, Juliana, you had said that I have no Kapha at all. We are a combination always of Vata, Pitta, Kapha. If we do not have Kapha, how are we going to survive? Because the structure of a body is given by Kapha. Our bones, our muscle, everything is Kapha. So of course we have Kapha. But when we are doing a questionnaire, so when we are doing a Prakriti questionnaire, the numbers move from 1 through 3. where 1 is, and some people do it through 1 through 4, but normally in people who follow Dr. Vasant Lad, and I kind of try to follow him, and I also follow the Maharishi style. So I'm okay with either. So you follow the 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1 means the most, 3 means the most dominant dosha, 2 means the one which is secondary, and 1 means which is tertiary, which is the least dominant. So Prakriti can never be more than 3 because it can only be 1 through 3. So when you did your dosha test, if the kapha numbers were least, you won. If the kapha number, like for me, kapha is always highest numbers. So I'm K3. My pitta is always the secondary, P2. My vata is always the least, so I'm V1. But of course, with season and time, it keeps on changing. So when you do the Vikruti test that Olga did with you today, you will notice that, every few months, every single time you get a period, that changes, because when you get a period, our vata increases, we are more bloated. For pitta women, their vata and pitta also increases, right? Kapha women, their tamasa increases. So our body and mind are undergoing a dynamic change. Vikrutis, there are so many types of Vikruti. But right now, we are not going through so many types of Vikruti. There are 10 types of Vikruti. But we are only going through just generically. Okay? Any other questions? So just one more thing. You all did your test right now. All of you, right? You would have noticed, yes, you would have noticed that your Vikruti, the test that you took just now for yourself, it is different. Two months from now, and when you take this test again, it's going to be different again. Because you are in, there are attributes that will change. Your weight can change. Your skin can change. It can go from rough, dry. It can show acne. It can get some issues. Your weight can change. Your appetite can change. Your bowel movements can change. Your memory can change. Maybe the color of your eyes is not going to change. So the attributes that change definitely change. So when you have your Vikruti, we actually write the Vikruti from 1 through 4. So Prakriti we are writing 1 through 3, and Vikruti we are writing 1 through 4. So can anyone tell me if anybody's Vikruti has gone up to 4? So if you are a Pitta already, but your Pitta has increased even more. So instead of writing P3, you will write P4. So another way of writing that, of course, you're going to do this in Tradoshas. VPK. Oh, let me write it here. V2, P1, K3. So let's say somebody is a Kapha Vata. They are primarily Kapha, and so this is their Prakriti. So they had maximum amount of Kapha, least amount of Pitta, and secondary Vata. Right? So one way to write is you put the numbers as that person's Pitta has increased. V2, P2, K3. You can increase the number in Vikruti. I like to do it is I actually personally don't like to use the numbers. What I'll do is I'll add an arrow. So let's say if this is my Prakriti, and right now I did my dosha test, and I see my appetite has changed, and my memory has changed, and my bowel movements have changed. I'm more constipated, and my vata has increased, and my kapha has also increased. So I tend to write, let's say, I will make an arrow. I was already kapha, and my kapha has increased. My pitta was already low. It's gone further down, and my vata has gone up. That's how I like to write it, because it gives me an idea of the doshas. How is disease caused? Disease is caused when the doshas move out of their sthanam. You want to use arrows, Carolyn? That's completely fine with me. That's completely fine. So what Midori does is she does something else because she finds it hard to make an arrow in a form. She will write, let's say, if you were V2, P3, K1, instead of writing even arrows, what she does is she adds a plus and minus sign. Right. The plus sign tells you it is increased, minus sign tells you it's decreased. So for me, I like to visualize it because this is telling me that kapha has increased exponentially, vata has increased just a little bit, and pitta is even further down, and it gives me an idea of how to design the protocols. because the protocol now, obviously the pitta has gone down, so my protocol are designed to increase the pitta, decrease the kapha, and decrease the vata. So this is, the way I do it. It's, it's not even San Diego College of Ayurveda. It's Monica way. But I personally don't like to use the numbers. But we teach the numbers because we're using, Dr. Ladd's book, and it's a great way. Some students like to just add plus and minus signs. So if you want to do, you were V3 and your vata has increased, you can just write vata has increased 3 times. P2, it's decreased. Kapha has increased. Okay, so I have to leave now because I have a Panchakarma workshop, and people have actually started arriving at the classroom. And you can post your questions up in the forum. Next class, Dr. Sahana is doing, she's introducing to doshas, and then she's moving into vata and the subdoshas of vata. So we'll be posting some assignments there for you to do. So in your Tridoshas module, please go and read chapter 1, chapter 2, and read the chapter on vata subdoshas. So it's a lot of reading this week because we are finishing Samkhya. So Atul's going to give some feedback of some people who had posted the Samkhya assignment as well. And any other questions, please post them. Thank you very much.
The Samkhya presentation. Okay. So one of the things that we mentioned in passing was the nadis and chakras. Okay. All right. So the concept of nadis and chakras may be something that you're already familiar with. I think many of you may have a background in yoga. I know that a lot of the people who sign up for our courses are yoga instructors, and we've had people who have been practicing and teaching yoga for 30 years or more. But I'd like to talk about the concept of the nadis and chakras and how this relates to Ayurveda and in pulse diagnosis. So let's start with talking about the left and right side. So the left side is associated with feminine energy and the right side associated with masculine energy. So what are we talking about when we're talking about masculine and feminine? So remember that when we started talking about Samkhya philosophy, we said that there is the Prakriti and Purusha. The Prakriti is the feminine nature, and the Purusha is the masculine principle. And these masculine and feminine principles are present in all of us in varying balances. Sometimes the balance is very much tilted on the masculine side, and sometimes it's very much tilted on the feminine side. And just as you will say that you cannot have a balance of doshas without some element of kapha, there's always some element of the masculine and some element of the feminine, and the only thing that really varies is the proportion. So we all have these, both masculine and feminine, in varying proportions. And there's an association for the sides of the body. So this Sushumna Nadi, this is a channel. It is an energetic channel which follows the line of the spinal cord. It begins at the root chakra, at the base of the spine. This root chakra is called the Muladhara, and it goes all the way up to the crown chakra at the top of the head. Then there is the Pingala Nadi. So this Pingala Nadi begins from the root chakra, and it travels in a winding path like a serpent. It's associated with the right side of the body. You notice the first place that it goes is to the right, and masculine energy. And this is why breathing exercises in doing pranayama that are meant to increase the fire element, they may use the right nostril. That's why there are these exercises of use your right nostril, use your left nostril. This is because the right nostril is associated with Pingala Nadi. So it's a subtle channel of energy that is associated with the right side of the body and the masculine energy in our body. Then the complement is Ida Nadi. So Ida also is the mirror image of Pingala, except that it begins from the left side, and it is associated with the left side and the feminine energy in the body. And it travels also in a winding path like a serpent. So when we look at the two of these together, you see this is something like the caduceus in the Greek medicine. You have that staff, and it has the two serpents that are winding around. That's basically, it's almost like a representation of the Sushumna, Pingala, and Ida Nadi. So breathing exercises that are related to the Ida Nadi use the left nostril. So this, now when you look at that diagram and you look at how these channels, these nadis, are intersecting with each other, the places where they intersect are called chakras. So we've all heard of chakras. You have these 7 chakras, and these are centers for the flow of energies throughout the body. So where these 3 channels, Sushumna, Pingala, and Ida, intersect, these are our chakras, beginning from the Muladhara, the root chakra, going up to the crown chakra. And there's extensive description of these chakras in yoga literature. So let's look at the names of the chakra. You have the Muladhara, the root chakra, and then Swadhisthana, which is just above that. And then Manipura is the navel chakra, which is just behind the navel. Anahata is the heart chakra. Vishuddha, the throat chakra. Agya, which is just between and slightly just between the eyebrows, and the Sahasrara, or crown chakra. So now we relate this back to the Panchamahabhut. So the Muladhara chakra, the root chakra, is rather intuitively related to earth. The Swadhisthana chakra, which is between the Manipura, the navel chakra, and the root chakra. So what is the actual location of the root chakra? Well, mostly that is described as being something like when you are sitting, if you were sitting in the posture like this sort of funny looking person figure is sitting here in a asana, it's that part which is going to be touching the ground. So it's like the what is that called? The peritoneum. So that is sort of the location of the Muladhara chakra, and then moving up from there, the Swadhisthana chakra. And Swadhisthana is associated with water. Then fire is associated with the Manipura, or the navel chakra. So if you were doing some breathing exercises which were meant to stimulate Agni, you might do breathing and try to bring the breathing down to your navel, because this is the place where these chakras intersect. This is the place where these channels intersect, and this is a nexus. This is a nexus for energy flow. Then Anahata, the heart chakra, is associated with air. So think about the function of the heart. The heart is the center of circulation. If the heart is afflicted, if the heart is not working properly, there is no circulation. There is no life. The heart is pumping blood. It is moving things. It is moving circulation throughout the body. So when we're talking about the different types of prana that are circulating, we are talking, these are manifested in a subtle way as well as in a substantial way. And the heart is really, well, it's, you know, not to be contrite, but it's the heart of bodily function. So heart is associated with air. The heart chakra is associated with the air element. Then the Vishuddha chakra, the throat chakra, this is associated with space. This is associated with space, with emotion, with communication. You know, sometimes when we feel some very intense emotion, especially if we feel some very intense grief, we feel a tightness in our throat. We feel our throat closing up. It is being affected by very strong emotion. So here we have these 5 components of the Pancha Mahabhut, the 5 major elemental categories associated with these 5 lower chakras. Earth associated with the Muladhara chakra, water with the Swadhisthana chakra, fire with the Manipura or navel chakra, air with the Anahata or heart chakra, and space with the Vishuddha or throat chakra. So how are the nadis and the chakras and the different types of prana connected? So as we said, these are nexi. They are these interchange centers. You know, like if you ride the subway system in New York and you want to change, you know, you might get off at the 42nd Street or the Grand Central Station, and there's this connection point. You can get on the other lines. So the chakras, they are these places where everything is coming together. This is why the chakras are so important. It's because the nadis are coming together, and the prana circulation is also in touch there. So these nadis come in touch at the chakras with all 5 major and 5 secondary prana in the body. And the circulation of prana is the main mechanism by which our consciousness permeates the body. So it is the circulation of prana that gives us it is our connection of consciousness with body. So now this relates to Ayurveda in a very interesting way, because one of the things that you have probably heard of in Ayurveda is pulse diagnosis, and you may have seen someone demonstrating this. You must have read about this in your whatever reading you've done on Ayurveda. But in pulse diagnosis, a practitioner will put 3 fingers, take someone's hand, and put 3 fingers, and they are trying to sense the pulse. And if you read in books, it'll say there's a frog movement, there's a snake movement, there's a swan movement. So what's actually going on? This is not just a physical pulse taking, but this is where you are trying to sense the subtle energy of these 3 channels using your 3 fingers. You have your own channels, your own nadis, Sushumna, Pingala, and Ida, and they are present in your 3 fingers. And the other person also has these pathways present in their wrist. So your pathways are present in your fingertips. They're also present in the wrist of the person. And you are trying to very sensitively, you are trying to sense a very subtle movement of their energies. And by that, you are able to, with practice, become aware of issues involving the chakras and the nadi circulation in that person's body. So pulse diagnosis is a very, it's a very esoteric topic. It has been not described in great detail. It's been treated a little bit like a secret. We really try to teach this in as much of an open way as possible so that you can understand it, so that you can apply it in your own practice. And of course, you can also try it on yourself and on friends. And this is a topic that that Monica teaches, and we've also had workshops on pulse diagnosis. But this is the core principle in pulse diagnosis, is all based on these three channels, these three nadis, and their presence, and being able to sense their presence and how they are affecting the doshas and the circulation of prana within the body. So that's the end of the presentation on nadis and chakras. Any questions at this point?
Hi there.
Hi, Carolyn.
Hi. I'm wondering about the solar plexus and how that plays into it all.
Yes. Well, so that's a good question, and the so the solar plexus is also, this is actually the location of the anahata, or the heart chakra. So the heart chakra is not actually in the heart itself, but it is in the region of the heart. The solar plexus is basically a physical location where many nerve endings come together, and it can be used as a marma point. But that corresponds to the location of the anahata, or the heart chakra. So the place where the winding of these nadis and the straight path of the sushumna nadi come together, that heart chakra is there, and it is associated with the heart and the heart's function, and it is in very near proximity to the heart. But the heart chakra is not actually in the heart. The heart, as we know, is slightly offset. It's not exactly in the center. But the solar plexus is much, it is much closer to the actual location of the heart chakra. So, and then also there was another question about sushumna nadi. So the sushumna nadi is actually the one of the main channels, one of the main flows of energy. This is the path that goes straight up, that follows the line of the spinal cord. And there is also, in some systems of yoga, there's a lot of focus on the nadis, especially in Kundalini. So Kundalini refers to this coiled energy that circulates on these nadis. And in Kundalini, there are various practices, some tantric practices, which are meant to try to stimulate or manipulate the flow of energies. Although the goal of Kundalini Yoga is actually moksha. It's actually to move the Atma, or the soul, along the path and force it up to the Sahasrara, to this chakra at the top of the head. So this is the concept of the Kundalini Jagrati, the awakening of the Kundalini. It is this bringing the energy up from the bottom up to the top. So talking about issues, how could you actually use this knowledge to use pranayama to help balance issues on the right side of the body? Now, when we say there are issues on the right side of the body, so it's a very good question. that we have here. So let's say if someone has issues on the right side of the body, how would you use pranayama to balance the issues? Would you use right-sided breathing or left? You would need to understand the cause of the issue, because something's manifesting on the right side of the body. That doesn't necessarily mean that there is a that the problem lies originally in the circulation in the Pingala Nadi. Although the Pingala Nadi is associated with the right side of the body, we need to look at the imbalance. The imbalance is manifesting on the right side of the body, but we would need to look at the root cause. So that's a little bit out of the scope of this, and it's also not really my area of expertise, but I think this would be a great question to put on the forum, and I think you would get a really good answer from Monica or Midori, and we have a number of people who are also working actively with yoga therapy, and it's a really excellent question. So I would really like to see that posted on the forum. Any other questions here before we move on? And there's really just one final presentation. Yeah. So just one final presentation. We're going to talk about the Panchakosha. Okay. So the 5 koshas, or levels of awareness, you will sometimes hear these described as the 5 sheaths. They are called sheaths because they are really sort of concentric. They are, if you will, shells around us that represent our level of understanding. So let's just talk about this a little bit, and this is also a very important topic. We will discuss it more, and particularly in Block 2, we talk quite about this in terms of Ayurveda and the mind. So what are these 5 levels of awareness? Think of the layers of an onion, and each one encloses the ones before it. And if you peel away layers, you get to what's deeper inside. So it's basically a perspective on our existence. It gives us an analytical tool to understand the way that different people may be at different stages of their interaction with the world. So our view on the world, it tends to be, at any given time, it may be predominantly more in one of these layers of awareness and more in another. And it's rare that we're stuck completely in one. We tend to move between them. Even in the course of a day, we may do things on one level, and then we may move to doing something on another level. And if we didn't do that, it wouldn't be that interesting. Our life wouldn't be that interesting, or it might be somewhat animalistic. So let's talk about these levels of awareness. There is Annamaya. So Annamaya is the most basic level of awareness. It's the awareness of gross consumption, especially eating and tasting, putting things in my mouth. This is called Annamaya. Annam is grains or food grains in Sanskrit. So Annamaya is this level of awareness of gross consumption. Pranamaya. Pranamaya is awareness of my own vitality and also the need to protect myself. So it's gone from consumption to now movement and activity and protection. And then there's Manomaya. Manomaya is awareness of mind, awareness of thinking, feeling, willing, and exploring the imagination. It's the awareness of beauty, of art, of variety and expression. Then there is Vijnanamaya. It's the awareness of pure intellect. It's the pursuit of absolute knowledge and the pursuit of balanced understanding, of dispassionate understanding of things. And finally, Anandamaya. Anandamaya is the awareness of spiritual existence, the pursuit of bliss, the pursuit of spiritual perfection. It may also involve the search for liberation or salvation, for going from this world to a next world that is permanent and that is blissful in nature. So these are the names. So let's talk about them in detail. So let's start with Annamaya. So Annamaya is the concept of consumption of food and drink. Think of a toddler. What is it that toddlers do? What's the first thing you have to do if you're going to baby-proof your house? Well, a toddler is going to put everything he or she finds in his or her mouth, guaranteed, right? So you cannot have small objects flying around. You cannot have dangerous objects that would cause a problem if a small child put it in his or her mouth. And this is a level that we function on sometimes. Sometimes we have to perform necessary functions of sustaining our bodily existence. We have to eat regularly when we have to eat the right things. So we still function at this level, but we usually function on other levels as well. But if there's an imbalance or overindulgence, someone may regress back to staying more stuck in this gross level of existence, and they may have emotional voids that they try to fill by eating and drinking. How much of a problem is it that people eat as an emotional reaction? It is the cause of so many various types of health problems, especially obesity, but not just that, but there are other types of problems that can be caused by an imbalanced diet, just like someone may be stress eating. And I've been guilty of this. You know, I'm not eating because I need to. I'm not eating because I need the nourishment. I'm eating because I'm stressed and I'm under intense pressure at work, and you know, I'm snacking on something that is not healthy for me, but it's a way of coping with stress. So that is a function of Annamaya. And moving on to the next stage normally takes place very naturally during childhood. So then the next stage is Pranamaya. So if there's a phrase that you could characterize Pranamaya, you could say, I'm high on life. So think of a child. A child, they want to run, they want to play. They don't want to be bothered to come inside for silly things like meals and going to bed and these things that parents think of. They just want to play. Come on, I've only just started playing. No, it's 8 o'clock. You've got to come inside. You know, you have to eat. You have to go to bed. But child doesn't want to do that. I have now discovered I've moved on from putting things in my mouth, and now I have moved on to the playground and doing things and running, and this is natural, this is healthy, this is a very important part of a child's development. It's also a very important part of our set of these layers of awareness. So when we're aware of our health and we want to stay healthy, and when we take pleasure in running, exercise, and physical activity, we're functioning on this level of pranamaya. Very important. And it's also, this is where our tendency to defend ourselves from bodily harm takes place. We're also transacting on pranamaya when we think about protecting ourselves from harm. If someone got stuck on this level, then they might become obsessed with self-protection. You know, like there are people who hoard weapons and they're just so worried that something's going to happen that they end up, building up an arsenal of, guns and knives and things that they think they need to protect themselves from other people, from government or whatever. But this is because of, getting stuck on this level of pranamaya. Then there's manomaya. Manomaya is the realm of imagination. It is the realm of the mind. So now, again, let's go back to our child development. Now, children discover books, they discover movies, they discover video games. So now we're moving on from pranamaya to manomaya. And this is a level where we do a lot of our functioning for much of our adult lives. All of our feelings, our emotions, our likes and dislikes, they're all taking place on this level of manomaya. Our imagination originates here, and it takes input from other layers of our existence. We may read a novel about how exciting it was for someone to climb the mountain, and it may make our pulse race. But we are enjoying vicariously. This is manomaya. It's not pranamaya, because we are in our mind. We are seeing ourselves on the mountain with that explorer who's going through this great challenge. And if we indulge in mind-altering substances, or if there's imbalance due to disease or stress, it may make it harder for us to separate fact from fantasy. And if someone is stuck in manomaya and they do not have enough input from others, and someone may, for example, there was a South Korean boy who was playing video games for 40 hours, and he actually died because he couldn't leave the computer to go eat and drink. And he actually suffered, I think it was massive dehydration or something like that. So there are, any one of these levels, we can be imbalanced. So again, let's go back to our young adult teenager who is developing a love for knowledge. Vijnanamaya is the level of awareness of purely objective knowledge. It's about, now I am developing a love for learning and for understanding and for finding out the truth and for seeing things clearly, not tainted by emotions and wishful thinking. So this is the development of the Vijnanamaya layer. If we were functioning purely on this level, our life would be a bit cold and dry, but there are examples of people who are like this. They do not have much of an emotional involvement in anything, and they're just absolutely obsessed with understanding and deepening their understanding and solving the great problems and mysteries of the universe. So if we were obsessed with knowledge and we didn't have any balance of compassion and feelings, it could lead to sociopathic behavior. It could lead to someone who is just so obsessed with knowledge that they lose sight of what would be right and what would be wrong. Finally, there is the level of awareness of Anandamaya. So Anandamaya is the pursuit of spiritual bliss and realization. This is what we people seek in spiritual paths, in religion, in yoga sadhana. And you could characterize it by a need to feel some connection with the greater whole. That's a particularly appropriate expression in terms of yoga, because yoga really means connection. It means to link up, to yoke ourselves to the divine. That is where the term yoga comes from. So it is our need to have a connection. And our sense of connection may be one of feeling disconnected or isolated. So, if someone is an atheist or agnostic, that is their way of expressing, well, my connection with the greater whole is I don't really feel part of it, or I don't really believe that it exists, or I feel that my concept of the greater whole is humanity. I may be a secular humanist, but there is some concept in, everyone who's not an animal. There's some concept of Anandamaya. There's some part of us that is reaching out for Annamaya. Now, when people take, religion as a sectarian thing and they fight each other over it, that's usually they're taking that concept and they're calling it their Annamaya, their pursuit of spiritual bliss, but it's really just it's just all Manomaya and Pranamaya. I've made up some ideas. I'm now calling it my religious ideas, and I really like to fight people over it and try to make myself look superior. But we're trying. So I'm not trying to be critical of anyone here, but I'm just saying this is the concept. When we talk about Annamaya, we're talking about the real concept of someone's actual pursuit of spiritual bliss and realization that's not tainted by any of these other things. So this is the concept of the 5 koshas. These are the 5 koshas: Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya. So that's it for today for presentations. And do we have any other questions? Again, we've had some really excellent questions. I think it's been, Olga did an amazing presentation. I think that we've got a really great group here, and I'm just seeing some really fantastic questions coming. I really would encourage you to post things on the forum, and we can have some, interactive discussion that'll continue on the forums. I do have your responses to the previous quiz. What is your understanding of Samkhya philosophy? I've seen some really good answers. I'm going to be grading those, and also have another set of assignments that will be posted within the next 24 hours or so. So please be on the lookout for that. I just want to remind you, when you go to the site, when you go to the virtual campus, use that My Courses link. The My Courses link is your friend. And My Courses will show all the courses you're enrolled in, and it will show you all the assignments that you may have pending there. So I'll just show you quickly there in the web browser. So if you go here, and if you click on this My Courses link, which is right up here, let's annotate that. So this is the My Courses link up here. And if you click on that, you're going to see this list. You're going to see all the various courses that you are enrolled in, and you'll see the assignments that you have. So down here, Samkhya philosophy, and you'll see assignments there. Okay, well, that is it for today, and thank you all very much. If you have any other questions, this will be the time. If not, then I'll say goodbye.